Okay, welcome to the 2020 North American Cystic Fibrosis Conference. Our presentation today is the role of the new TDN Clinical Research Coordinator. Presenting is Miguel Bahena-Garcia, Candy Schmall, Matthew Vitoriak, and Lisa Bendy. I am Lisa Bendy. I'm the Pediatric Pulmonary Research Manager at Riley Hospital for Children in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I have no relationships to disclose related to this presentation. So the role of the new TDN Clinical Research Coordinator is a pretty diverse one that's in the TDN network. Everyone wants to feel valued in their workplace, so how do we integrate these things into our workplace, standardize processes, make sure that we have our coordinators feeling empowered? How do we communicate with them? How do we train them? How do we make them successful and not have burnout, because it is very stressful just starting out in a new position. So today we're going to list the tools, resources, and programs available to our new TDN research coordinators. Just because you're a new coordinator to the TDN system doesn't mean you're necessarily new to research. So how do you bring those tools, if you have previous experience, into your role in the TDN? We're going to identify what types of orientation content is most beneficial for our new coordinators. Describe the successful orientation plan for the new coordinator based on the manager's perspective. In summary, we're going to look at the experience of the research personnel, both new and experienced, in measuring how successful their training and integration into their TDN role was. The things I'm going to cover are the different programs that are offered to us through the TDN to help us make a successful transition into this role. The first one is the CFCRNet. This is a website that is available to anyone within the network. You would request access to this website, and that is through Trenton Gordon in the TDN. This is a central resource for all things CF research. All the care centers that are within the TDN network are listed in the CFCRNet website. The CFCRNet website lists all the latest news that's going on with CF research. All of the research studies that are supported or recognized by the TDN are listed within this website. It also gives the institutions or the network sites that are conducting this research. There's a clinical research toolbox. This has templates and documents in it that help you be successful at conducting different research programs, different research studies. There's also TDN policies that are listed within this website that help guide you on how certain procedures that are done for the different research protocols, how they should be completed. These can also be some guides that you could use at your institution just for your research program. There's also training and development documents. This is a large variety of documents that support all things training and development and keeping your program successful. What works, you can tailor these to your site specifically. There's many, many templates and a lot of support documents that are included in this folder. Also included in this site is the CF Center portal. This lists all the different centers, who the team members are at those centers, both clinical and research, and it gives the individuals that are on that team and what their contact information is. Also is listed the metrics. The metrics is a tool that helps you understand how your center is performing in their research activity, what this looks like based on the milestones that are required by the TDN. The next program is the Mentor program. This pairs an experienced RC with someone that has less than 2 years of experience at the site. They match the person, the apprentice, and the mentor based on the type of center and program that they're at, the number of patients that are supported, is it adult, is it pediatric, things of that nature. The pairing is an application that the apprentice applies to be a part of this program. They're paired with that mentor based on, again, those program site things. And then they are matched in the spring. Then there's a meeting that occurs that introduces everyone. It's like a meet and greet. You get to know one another, and then you set out on your journey for this mentor-apprentice program. You're going to help each other set goals, how these goals are going to be obtained, how you're going to meet milestones, things like that. The apprentice arranges a site visit at the mentor site. It's usually a one-day visit. The apprentice is integrated into the team at the site. They work on their goals, what types of tools are going to help them achieve their goals. So the apprentice comes to visit the mentor, but the mentor doesn't necessarily go to the apprentice's site. I have actually had the opportunity, since one of my apprentices was in Chicago and I live in Indianapolis, I got to travel to Chicago for something else, but did get to spend a day with my apprentice, and I found this very beneficial. While this is not necessarily part of the program, it was just something thinking outside the box that was supported by the TDN that I was allowed to do. And I felt like just we gained so much more benefit to our mentor-apprentice relationship and how successful that person was. Post the visit of the apprentice, then there's the communication continuing with email, telephone, and following on progress on how they're doing, meeting goals, planning their presentation. The second presentation is then practice, and then the final presentation is and goals and how their success came from this program is presented at the NACFC in the fall. The next program is Phone a Friend. This was created this past year just out of the current pandemic situation that we're living in. This is just a great way for RCs, not just new RCs, but any RC, to reach out to a colleague and just kind of bounce ideas off of, think about creative ideas or ways to fix a problem or something that you want to do within your program. There's 8 RCs that are located from east to west in the country. They're available via email or phone, and their information is contained in the CFCR website, CFCRnet website. We also have monthly RC webinars. There's always different topics that are addressed. It's a great platform for sharing ideas and thoughts about the particular topics, and it's also a great way for suggesting topics that you'd like to see others present. The CFACRP is the Association of Clinical Research Professionals. This was a program to support RCs from the leadership to show how much they respect and they feel our jobs are important to the success of our programs. This program just offers growth in your position. You can apply to be part of sitting for the exam. If the CF Foundation accepts your application, then you get the support tools to be successful in passing the exam. You will sit for the exam one time during the year, and again, it just promotes job satisfaction. The LARC Award was another program, again, that supports and recognizes the RCs from the leadership's perspective that we are very important to, the success of the TDN and the roles that we provide. This program supports educational needs, and this is a 3-year program that reimburses school loans up to an amount of $10,000. Again, you have to apply and be accepted, and then there's just a yearly maintenance that you continue to show to the TDN that you're paying back your school loans, and they would continue to help you with that reimbursement. And the last platform is the RC Yammer. This is a great 24/7 social platform. It's just a great way to network with others, what's going on, if you have questions, if you have a presentation that you're needing to do or have a question about something, you can present a poll question and get feedback from different programs, different RCs. It's just a great way to continue to network. There's a chat function, and there's lots of information about what's going on in CFF and the TDN that's always presented there. So beyond just the programs that are offered by TDN, we also have programs that are offered at your site. And so those are the things that you also want to be in tune with others on your team to utilize and just network within your own team to make sure you're using all of the different resources that may be available to you as a new clinical research coordinator. Okay. And next we have Miguel, Candy, and Matt will be presenting, and they also do not have any relationships to disclose related to this presentation. And first up is going to be Miguel.
Hi, Lisa. Good morning. Thank you for the invite. I was thinking this morning that it's been quite 7 months since I don't get to dress up, so I'm also glad about that. I've been living off my scrubs and pajamas. back at home. So it was quite a challenge this morning. But once again, thank you for having me and for the invite. So yeah, my name is Miguel Bahena-Garcia. I am a brand new research coordinator. No previous experience. Actually, I crossed my 6 month mark last week. So March 9th was the day that I started. Um, I would say that before I fully go into my presentation, I gotta say that uh, I arrived at Children's Mercy in the pulmonary and sleep department March 9, and I went 6 days in office. That sixth day was a Monday, and then my manager came and surprised us with the big news that we are gonna be shipped home. So uh, so that was very quick for me. Just as a previous about me, I before becoming a nurse, I've been a nurse close to, I think, 2.5 years overall. Before that, I spent my entire life in classrooms. I was a grade school teacher. So then I just went ahead and got into the nursing world, which I love. Out of those years, I've been in the ICU close to 1.5 years before moving into this new role. So okay, so please next. Okay, so this is just two pictures that I decided to put in here. On the left, you have me and my office. I guess that my new co-workers became my two cats. I have two cats, and I just found out that the more I sit in there, the more food they ask for. So they have gained weight with me a little bit, during these 6 months. On the right, it was a picture that I took in one of the training opportunities that I got in the hospital with a colleague. So we are just the face shield and my mask. So I just decided to take that picture. Okay, next, please. As I was saying, I started during COVID times. Kansas City back then, March was getting hit by more cases. So those 6 days and plus my remote training has given me quite a unique start, I would say. Okay, so one of the first questions that I got asked is what was the most helpful part of my learning, and I'm gonna blindly say that teamwork. I arrived to a great team. I was actually um, a little bit worried about arriving to a new job and not having a good team. I think that is a very high priority in me whenever I move jobs, which is not very often really, but um, that was a great plus. The other thing is that when when COVID hit and we had to be sent home, we really learned how to accommodate, to the current circumstances. Um, and it was just not an easy transition, I would say, but it was great, and I felt super good that the entire study team was checking on me on a regular basis. It starting from a manager and my coworkers, the PIs, here and there, we were allowed to to kind of come in and then pick up something. So I would say hi to them, and then to whoever was here. Really, we were not that many. But the other thing that was helpful, it was like our open communication, email, phone calls, and text messages. Um, we just found it, um, that style, and then we found that it was just a great way of communicating. Okay, next, please. Um, what was something more than I needed that I didn't get, and and how did I correct this? Well, I am very unsure that maybe everything, but in a different way. I am still learning. and I doubt it would ever stop. So I would say that not full face-to-face training is one, but we accommodated to the circumstances pretty well. Another thing that we do, it's while we are remote, is Teams, email, and phone calls. One thing that has helped me a lot is Teams sometimes has a delay in voice, so I usually call the person on the phone, and then we just do screen share. So we follow, and it's just like a better flow, I would say. I also got a couple opportunities to do face-to-face training. One couple of my colleagues were still working with Promise visits and some Vertex studies. So it was around 15 that I came and helped. This opportunity just gave me a big insight on the introduction to the CF patient population, the research unit, the clinic, different team members, and the institution overall, I would say. Also gave me the opportunity to start developing and start feeling more comfortable with some techniques that were very new to me, like the sweat collections and blood draws, which now that I was an ICU nurse, so I was pretty comfortable with that. But I think what I was not comfortable with is performing them on peds. So that was something that I was super nervous about, and I brought it to one of our meetings on how you talk to kids, how you let them know that I'm going to stick. So that was a challenge for me, I would say, coming from the adult ICU world. So next. How did I work within my group to gain the knowledge and the skills that I felt I needed? Well, big thing, and as usual, I think this is pretty common on me, asking lots of questions. I have no problem asking questions. Um, I don't think that my team has noticed it, but a quick funny story was when I was working in the ICU. Every single time I would call my charge nurse, the first thing she or he would say is like, "Okay, Miguel, what is your next question?" So they already know that I was calling to ask a question, you know. So, however, with COVID and being sent home, this became a challenge. Okay, I discovered that it was not as easy as just turning your chair to face your colleague and just pop a question. Okay, or your colleague coming to your desk and look at what I was seeing. So that was a challenge. For that, I think that the first strategy that I got was I gather lots of questions, probably like around like three to five questions, and I would ask them, "Hey, are you free for a phone call, or can we meet at a certain time of the day for me to ask them?" And we would go on Teams, or as I said, that phone call would work great. Also, email. Okay, email. As we know, it's a great way to have proof of communication. The only challenge for me as a new person was that as I was typing an email and I send it, two more questions would pop out in my head by the time I received the answer. So I had to type a new email. So another thing that I'm big of, it's making phone calls if 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 that's gonna help with timing. I like saving time for me, and I like to save time for my colleagues too. So phone call should work too, but mostly I try to keep everything written if it's a serious conversation or something like that, just to have proof of it. And if it's just an easy peasy thing, I would just shoot a text message, just real quick yes no answer, and that would work perfectly. Next, please. This question is a good question, and how I became familiar with my team and how I know who is who besides names and titles when we go on home meetings or Teams or anything like that. So if you remember, I was 6 days in office, so during that time, I got to meet a lot, some PIs, of course, during my interview, I met the entire um, uh, team of research coordinator with my manager. And then I remember one of our PIs being there, but there were more. So what I did also during the study teams meetings, I would just ask, who are you, or can you identify yourself, or I would look them up in the system. We have a system, we just enter their name and they pop up with names and picture and department and all that. So I will get some knowledge from there. Um, and yeah, I mean, just asking them, I think that this was a little bit intimidating and weird because nobody is used to what's happening right now, so we are all accommodating, and it was kind of interesting to be like, wait, who are you? Oh, wait, who is that person? And sometimes I just let it go and then just do my own research after the meeting. And if not, just ask. Once again, I would ask lots of questions on that matter too. Next, please. Um, if there were any TDN tools that I have used that make my job easier, well, I'm gonna tell you, I think that I know the CFCRNet website like the palm of my hand. Once I got trained or asked to take all the necessary modules and trainings, for research, like the GCP, my orientation and all that. I went straight into the CFCRNet. Of course, I did not have full access, to it, but I explored it in like entirely. I just can't think of a space that I did not visit. I was there all the time, and I would say that the calendar has been, for me very very helpful. It has been hard just to catch times of meetings and days. So having that calendar right there in front of me and is still very very helpful. Uh, Once I got access to my first study, of course, I mean, I went in and explored the entire study website too. On every corner, I would have access to. I'll be there. The other one will be the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. And I can tell that that's, for me, it's an excellent resource to learn about CF and the pathophysiology of the disease. I was new to CF, new to research. I had previously heard about CF. I think I worked with one patient in the ICU who had CF, but it was just like a very very brief, and I didn't think much of it. But then this website really helped me understand, and I am a big person in knowing the pathophysiology of every single disease that I have in front of me, starting at the cell level. So I just like it, and I just go and explore the entire thing. So this was also a great resource for me. The other thing is the YouTube channel that the foundation has. I probably watched the entire video list there. So that was also great for me.
Okay, thank you so much, Miguel, for presenting that. And next we're going to go to Candy, who is Miguel's manager, and she's going to speak from her perspective.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk and have this opportunity to share. I think this could be very valuable information to anybody who's hiring or has gotten hired during this crazy time that we're living in. And just want to say a big welcome to Matt and Miguel to the TDN. It's a great group of people to work with and learn from. So as Lisa mentioned, I am the research coordinator manager at Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City, and I'm Miguel's supervisor. As he's already told you, he started in March. We actually started the process of looking for a coordinator I want to say in November or December of 2019, we had the current coordinator had accepted a position in our ICU at this Children's Mercy Hospital. And our hope was to get this new person hired and let them train with her to learn her studies and just make it a smooth transition. By the time we got all the approvals and everything in place, that didn't work out. She was out the door before he started. So Miguel interviewed with us in February, and we knew immediately that his personality would fit. But we were pretty concerned about the fact that he had no research experience, no CF experience. And it's like, but we talked about it as a team. And that's something when we interview, as Miguel mentioned to you already, we do it as a team. I mean, I do a lot of the background stuff, but the team helps make the decision on who we hire. And we thought, well, we're at a really good point. Our studies aren't too crazy busy, and we have enough studies going that we would have a good opportunity to show him things and let him learn from what we're doing. So we decided to go ahead and offer him the position, and he accepted and started with us on March 9th. So my plan for him was to have him complete all the required education that you have to do to get added to studies and be accepted by the IRB to be in research. So that kept him busy for a little bit. And then the plan was to have him go out and start exploring CFCRNet, just, here and there, take a break, go to visits with the coordinators, help somebody with regulatory stuff, just kind of break things up and be able to do different things, not just sit and read all at one time. Well, 6 days into his stay, that all changed, and he was sent home to work from home. And as he's told you, he spent a lot of time on CFCRNet. He very quickly finished all of his mandatory education for the hospital, and CFCRNet was the next place he went. And I have to tell you, some of the questions he brought to us as a group were things that we had not had an opportunity to take a look at. I think, as experienced coordinators, we all want to get out there and look at every single corner and learn everything we can from it. But it's one of those things that gets pushed aside as we're busy and we think, yeah, I'll get to that. Well, Miguel forced us to take a look at some of the things to help answer some of his questions, which was a great thing, and helped us learn some more too. The seating arrangement that the coordinators that I manage have, they sit in a 4 cubicles in a pod, and so they're all right there together. They can overhear, which is good and bad. Sometimes it's a pain, but for a new RC, I think it's a great learning environment because, they have the opportunity to overhear phone conversations with families, with IRBs, with accounting, budgets and billing, just all the different things that can happen. They have the chance to hear that and just learn and pick up on things that they might otherwise just not know because they're not exposed to it for a while. So again, Miguel got 6 days of that before he was sent home to train with his cats, who probably didn't have as good of questions and conversations to overhear as his colleagues here at the hospital. Next slide, please. So the most helpful feedback from Miguel, as he's already shared with you, are his questions. Without the questions, I think this way of training someone virtually would just be overwhelming, because it's like I have to remember everything, and I have to, when it's already in my head, sometimes it's hard to remember what I have told them and what I haven't told them. So the fact that Miguel was great at asking questions was the most beneficial thing. One thing I very much remember from when I started 20 some years ago as a research coordinator is when you're brand new and you have no experience, you don't know what you don't know. So you don't, it's just hard to know what to ask or what you need to be looking for in certain things. So again, just being open to asking questions and making that a part of your interactions with us every time we interact was key to his success, I believe. When we interview, one of the things that we always tell our applicants is that there are no stupid questions, and we don't care if we answer the same question 15 times. It's better than you not having asked it. And I think we do live that in our group of RCs as well. Even with all of our experience, if I'm questioning something or I'm not sure, I don't hesitate to spit out the question and let my colleagues confirm or deny what I'm thinking, just because I feel like it's so much better to do that than to have to learn from your mistakes. It helps ward off some of those mistakes. Next slide. The most beneficial training, which, you know, he's given you his perspective, and I have to agree. I do feel like the book learning, when I say book learning, in addition to all the training that he has to do just to get into research, I gave him a handful of books about just the coordinator role, which I've used over the years, and they're probably outdated, but they do share a very high overview of the job and just the responsibilities, and I feel like they're very beneficial. So yes, they're very beneficial, but the invaluable tool that I feel is the hands-on learning, which I think he kind of shared with you. It just gives an insight into how to do things. Yes, the books tell you what to do, and CFCRNet is a great resource, but until you're actually seeing and doing, that's when I feel like the learning sticks. So I feel like that is invaluable, and I'm very thankful that we had Promise and the Vertex studies to keep us busy, even when research in general was put on hold. Because those studies were active, they were able to continue to be seen, and Miguel did get the opportunity to assist those coordinators with those visits and watch and learn. We did have to get permission for that, but they were very, our research administration was very agreeable and realizing that we have to be able to train new people. So they were cooperative with that. And for that, we're thankful. Again, as Miguel mentioned, we use Teams for a lot of our training. When I have an amendment, or one of the girls on the team would have an amendment or something to do regulatory wise, we'll just call Miguel up and say, hey, we'll walk through this and show you as we're going what you need to do. And I feel like that is effective. If we were in person, I would probably actually have him sit in my chair, run the computer. I would tell him where to go and what to look for. Because again, I feel like actually doing helps it stick a little bit better. But given the situation that we're in, that was the best we could do. And I feel like it's been effective. And as we progress and he's doing his own amendments, you know, that will be my plan, is to have him call me on Teams. Let me watch while he walks through it and just be able to guide him and direct him from there. Another very beneficial thing that we do on a weekly basis is we have a weekly meeting with RCs. Just the 5 of us get on a call or a Teams meeting and just talk about, you know, work or not work, whatever is weighing on us at that particular time. That's a way for us to get to know Miguel. That's a chance for him to be able to ask questions. And I feel like that's something we all look forward to and a very beneficial part of our week. We also have a weekly team meeting with the whole entire CF team. And once a month, it includes our whole division of pulmonology and sleep. So, you know, that Miguel would always come prepared with questions for those, you know, if he had questions specifically that the doctors or the nurse practitioner would be better able to answer, he would bring them to the team meeting, whereas the coordinator things he was bringing to us. So I feel like those were very beneficial learning opportunities. Our CF clinic staff also gets together once a week with each provider and talk about the patients coming up for the next week. So the CF team huddles, the clinic team huddles. And we did ask Miguel to listen in on some of those, just as a way to learn CF in general, just the care that is involved and, you know, the patient perspective that the clinic offers that research doesn't always see without that. So I feel like he was able to learn a lot about CF care from those. And we also use those for recruitment coming up when he's ready to enroll in his first study. So that is a great way to get to know the team that he'll be working with on that. Our institution has a course called Research Fundamentals. It's been recently overhauled, and I feel like they've done a really good job. It's a great course. The first day is spent getting to know all the individual teams, the IRB, research accounting, you know, research administration. It used to be in person, and now that it's virtual, they are required to use video. when they present, so the new people are able to see faces and put names and faces together. The teams presenting talk about what they do, how to reach them. I feel like it's just a great way to learn Children's Mercy's team of researchers all the way around, so that you know who you're dealing with. The second day, they actually take a protocol and they break into teams and take a protocol and work it up for IRB submission and just kind of prepare it. And this course is for new coordinators, research assistants, and PIs, sub-Is. So I feel like it's a great opportunity for everybody. You know, most of the time, by the time they take the course, the coordinators have had a little bit of this experience, but I feel like it's invaluable for the PIs as well. So it's a great course, and one that I'm very proud that Children's Mercy has for us. Next slide. So the hardest thing to teach a new RC in this environment, I have to be honest, all of the teaching did not fall directly on my shoulders, which I'm so thankful for. I have a great team behind me, and we all have our specialties that just really complement each other. So, you know, one of my coordinators just really does a great job with regulatory submission. She knows it very well, and she's a great resource. Another has just done an exceptional job at recruitment and is able to share those things. You know, we all have our things that we kind of excel in. So I feel like as a team, being able to train a new person, we cover a lot of the bases. Probably if I have to pick something, it would be the little nuances, the variances in research that, you know, are not always the same, or they don't follow the rules. You know, the new coordinator has to learn all the rules and regs, and we have to follow the regs. But, you know, we use a central IRB. So we have Advara's IRB. They approve our documents. They send them back to us. We submit to Children's Mercy IRB. And there's a requirement that we have to add. So just, I mean, the fact that we all follow the same regulatory guidelines, you would think they would be the same. But, you know, one person's interpretation of it is a little different than another's. And the IRBs have that prerogative to require different things. So just teaching that, especially from a distance when he's not here to hear us talk through these things, or I may not remember, you know, that he doesn't know that. It's a hard thing to try to remember to share all those little things. You know, like even when you work with sponsors and you have their ECRFs, and they vary from team to team, study to study, what they're looking for and what they ask of you and how they want you to input the data. So that's just something that will come with experience. And lucky for Miguel, he's surrounded by coordinators who have 5 to 22 years of experience each. So I feel like we can, with confidence, be able to help him through whatever situation he might come up against. Next slide. So kind of in summary, I just have to go back to giving Miguel a lot of credit for making this a success. I will share with you that I hired another coordinator in another section at the exact same time as Miguel, and he's no longer with the institution. It just, his personality was different and it just didn't work out well. So I give Miguel a lot of credit for being that type of person that is not afraid to ask questions and who had that desire and passion to learn this. I think he'll be a great fit for our team. He has also put himself in some positions that I would never ask a new person to do, you know, me pushing it on them. But so an example of that is at our team meetings, each research coordinator is a lead on a study, on their studies. So we each take turns presenting our studies, going through with the team what's going on, having that opportunity to talk about each study for a period of time. So we all got our time in the spotlight. Well, Miguel didn't have that because he didn't have a study yet. So we created Miguel's Corner at his request. He wanted to be able to share some things with us and have an opportunity to ask questions. And I would never have done that to someone new, especially when they had 6 days to get to know us. But the fact that he reached out and asked for that, it's been a welcome addition to our meetings and a fun way for us to get to know Miguel, him to get to know us, and a great platform for him to ask the questions that he wanted to ask. So in summary, we are very much looking forward to the day when we can be together as we were in this picture. That's our full team. I don't know how we did it in the first 6 days, but we got a picture with Miguel before he was sent home. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that.
And next we have Matt, and he's going to speak on his perspective for new to the TDN research coordinator.
Hey everybody, I'm Matt. I'm a clinical research nurse here at Children's in Pittsburgh. I want to say thanks to Lisa for asking me, and Candy and Miguel for their presentations. My road to becoming a CF research nurse was a little bit different, which is why I added the new to the TDN research coordinator perspective. Before I worked in nursing, I was actually a chef, and being a nurse is my second career. I got out of nursing school and I went to work on a neurotrauma step-down floor and just fell in love with taking care of TBI patients and all the complexities that comes with that. And after working there for a while, I wanted to have a job that wasn't just 3 12-hour shifts on the floor. And somebody recommended I look into research, which I kind of like then turned into a career in neurotrauma research. And then left that position to then come here to Children's to work under Liz Hardigan in another division called Clinical Research Support Services, where I take care of any study that needs taken care of, basically. I'm kind of I get hired out to all these different departments, so I get to be exposed to every part of the human body that research can be done on. It's really great. And right before the pandemic, I actually joined the CF team because we had a coordinator leave here. And I was a CF research coordinator for maybe 2 to 3 weeks before everybody got sent home. So I got to learn everything about CF research on the fly from home with a little bit of training in real life. So we can go to the next slide. I like to have, you can move forward. Yeah, there we go. That's me before COVID. That's actually up in Toronto. I was at a conference. I was there with my wife, and we got this lovely ice cream treat at a beautiful outdoor market, and having the time of my life. I was loving everything. And then we can fast forward, move forward to the next slide. And this is me during COVID, which is just running around, screaming confusedly, because I didn't really know what was going on, because I had left my comfortable world of TBI research to join Children's. And then on top of that, I moved from the team that I was hired to a more specific area of cystic fibrosis, which was not a disease that I really had a lot of experience with, because when someone has like a traumatic brain injury, they have a lot of comorbidities, but really what you're concerned about is the brain. So I had a lot to learn very quickly, and it was challenging, but it was really great. Let's move forward to the next slide. So the most helpful part of the learning, move forward, was just immersion, like I said, in a thriving, well-established community of researchers. And what I mean by that is that the team here at Children's, they have a very robust, a very established cystic fibrosis team. And I was able to jump in and learn from everybody around me. There was so much experience and so many people that I could ask, that I really was able to come in very naive to CF and learn a lot in a very short amount of time. And then on top of that, the TDN resources were really helpful. The Yammer page was awesome because it was very informal, and it was just a place for people to post information, ask questions, and get answers in a much less structured way than having to like email my supervisor or one of the PIs. It was very nice. Also, I used the time here, and I talk about this later, but I got my ACRP certification during the pandemic because I got approved for it through the TDN. I did all the webinars and online learning and took my exam and got certified about 2 months ago. So that was really great. Can move forward. And what was something more you needed that you didn't get, and how did you correct this? Can move forward. Real world training. I was there for a couple weeks, and then I learned how to do a sweat test. I learned how to fill out some of the CRFs, and then I went home. And it was all virtual, and it was all learning through teams. And I actually put myself up as the member on the team to go in during COVID and ship out drug to patients for some of our Vertex studies. So for anybody else that had this, you know that like during the pandemic, people couldn't really come into the hospital. Everything was shut down, but we still had to get patients their medications and we still had to get things done. And so the more experienced coordinators on the team really handled the phone calls and making sure everything was filled out and everything was entered and everything was documented. And I volunteered to go in and ship out all the drug and to coordinate everything while I was there. So I really threw myself into whatever real world training I could get, which is just by being there in person, shipping things out, looking things up for people. And that was, I feel, really made all the difference because I got to just be there and I had to solve a lot of problems on the fly. I had to figure out how to get everything to everybody. I had to figure out how to contact patients. I had to find all the documents in the shared drive or in real life. And that was really great. Move forward. I also reached out to everyone on the team. I was not hesitant to put a phone call or a text message to somebody. I leaned on the rest of my team really hard because I knew that was the right thing to do, because I knew that I wanted it to be done properly. And I knew that I had a very experienced, capable team that I could rely on to help me through these, as everybody says, these unprecedented times. So it was really nice to have that. Can move forward. How did I work within my group to gain the knowledge or skills that I felt I needed? Move forward. Collaboration. I asked everybody all the time for everything. I worked with our pharmacist. I worked with the respiratory coordinators. I asked the PIs. I asked my supervisor. I put things out to everybody on the team. I even asked patients. Whenever I did have a patient there, one of the really great things to me about CF is because it's a lifelong disease, the patients are very familiar with how it presents in them. They know themselves very well. And coming in naive to CF, I really was open about that. I would tell patients, I would say, I am an experienced nurse. I'm experienced in research, but I'm new to cystic fibrosis. Why don't you tell me what this is normally like for you? And then I would get their feedback because I feel like it would come across as very disingenuous if I was trying to act like, oh yeah, I know. Especially when the team here, these patients have literally known their entire lives. So I'm not going to be able to come in and have that level of rapport. So why would I even try? I would just be honest and genuine and say, like, teach me what it's like for you to have this condition and what this is like for you, and make sure that I'm taking care of you as a human being and as a research subject. Because at the end of the day, I'm very passionate in believing that we can only do research through the kindness of the people that want to participate in these research studies. And so if we value the processes of research over the emotional experience of the subject, we will ultimately be shooting ourselves in the foot, because people will not want to do research anymore because they'll get burned out on us. So it's just working with the patients. It's kind of what I would get through with all that. Went off on a tangent there, but you can move forward. Pushing past fear was huge because for me, I had a lot of experience in research and I was an experienced nurse. And so there was a lot of fear on my part of like, is everyone going to think I'm an idiot because I don't know how to do this? Is everyone expecting me to already know how to do this certain thing? But I very quickly, I took this position because I wanted to learn and I wanted to grow. And I think we all know that there's so much to research. There's so many different areas. There's so many different ways that you can shine or that you can do things in it, that there's really no way that any one person can know all of it. And so for me, it was accepting that and saying, if I don't know this, I need to ask, even if could be perceived a certain way. And it never was, because people don't do that. Like, I would just get in my own head and being worried about something, and I would ask, and people always be grateful for the question. So really, as an experienced coordinator, it was kind of, I don't want to say humbling myself, but really just making myself feel okay with asking those basic questions to make sure I was doing it correctly. You can move forward. And I would say a gigantic, huge thanks to my entire team, to Adrian, Rose, Paul, my supervisor, Liz, Hardigan, all the staff at Children's really were incredibly supportive and incredibly kind and helpful during all of this. Because I really came in, started learning CF, and then went home. I think I probably met most of the team, but it was like a, hey, how you doing? And then we all just went home, and everybody's trying to figure out what to do in the midst of like COVID with CF patients. And here's this new coordinator who's like constantly popping in, asking questions. And everybody was just so great about it that it really helped to make everything smooth. So you can move forward. And how did I become familiar with the team? You can move forward. I just put myself out there constantly. I emailed people, I introduced myself. Like I sometimes have said in the past that I'm genetically incapable of respecting authority. And so that kind of worked to my favor because I didn't have the hang up of saying like, well, I don't really want to bother the PI. I was like, no, I'm going to ask because I need to know this. And like, I need to know these things. So I'm just going to put myself out there and talk to whoever is around. And if they don't know who to ask, I'm going to ask them who to ask. When I used to work in the hospital, I would submit lab orders for patients. And anytime there was an add-on sample, I would send a note to the lab that said, please add a PTT or a coag. And then I would add my number at the bottom for my pickle phone and say like, oh, let me know if there's any problems. And anytime there was a problem, the lab would call me back and either kindly or snarkily tell me like what exactly I did wrong. And I told people that I trained, I'm like, I add my number because like, there's nothing people love more, certain people love more than telling you what you did wrong and how you can do it better. And I want to actually, the thing that I need to get done. So even if these people want to call me and tell me I did it wrong, that's great because I can still get the thing done that I need to get done. You can move forward. Yeah, staying connected was gigantic. I kind of touched on that before. It's really just staying connected to people. We had weekly meetings in teams for all the teams that I was on. I did so many Teams calls and Zoom calls during the pandemic that I've had my fill and I've become proficient at both of them, whether or not I wanted to, because I was just on so many different calls, just trying to stay connected and trying to stay informed and up to date on what to do with all of the studies I was involved with. You can move forward. Yeah, the multiple hats, I kind of touched on that earlier. Currently in my role here, I spend a lot of time with CF research, but I also have active studies in the neonatal ICU, in nephrology, in rheumatology, in neurology, I'm trying to think of all of them, but last time I counted, I was up to like 7 or 8 different departments that I was going across that I just was active in different roles, well, all as a research coordinator, but just to varying degrees of whether it's supporting somebody else or it's a study of my own. And that's one of the things that I really loved about this position. And it's one of the things that was really great for keeping me sharp and learning during these times is that I constantly had to be the newest guy in the room for every single study, whether that was something that was sponsor initiated or whether it was a local PI coming up with something that they wanted to test. It was always like having to ask the question of like, okay, well, not only what do we do next, but how do we do this for the real world and for now during COVID, because COVID's not going to last forever, and what works now might not work in 6 to 9 months. So we have to come up with the process and then the backup plan to the process, and then how do we document it all and make sure that we're following what we say we're going to do to our IRB, because at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we're doing all of this properly and we're doing it the way that we say we're going to do it. So you can move forward. Any TDN tools that made my job easier? Yes, the ACRP training and certification was amazing. I spent weeks doing those online learnings with all the videos and all of the quizzes, and they were really great because not only was it great to get the certification, it was also a really great thing to see how much I knew about research. Like as I went through a lot of these videos, I was like, oh yeah, I've done this. Oh yeah, I've done this. And it really made me realize how much I had been exposed to in a very short period of time at Children's and from my previous position. Just like I had been taught really well by a lot of people, because a lot of the things that they talked about, I was like, oh, this is how so-and-so taught me to do it. This is what I was told to do by my regulatory coordinator at my old position. And it was really, it was a great achievement to get it done, but it also built a lot of confidence that I knew the right way to do research by being taught the right way. So that was really great. You can move forward. So many webinars, especially in the beginning of COVID. I felt like I got on so many mailing lists that by the end of COVID, I think I took at least 15 minutes a day unsubscribing from all the different webinars that I was now getting notified about. But I did like so many of them because I was trying to stay connected and trying to find relevant information. Like I wasn't just signing up for like a random webinar. I was trying to find things that actually were informative and could actually better my practice, because at the end of the day, I didn't want COVID to go by and like this whole work from home thing and go, well, what did I do with this time? I set myself like a goal to be like, okay, I want to make sure I walk out of this with something. And the ACRP certification was definitely that, but I also gained so much in terms of just a knowledge base through what I learned during this time. Can move forward. And then do I have any feedback to my manager on my training? For Liz, you can move forward. It was good timing. It was great to hire me when you did. I got in the door. I started in November of last year, and I joined the CF team around February. So I was able to get established at the hospital. I was able to get established on the CF team just barely, and then everything hit. So it was a really fortuitous timing for how it all played out. You can move forward. Tremendous amount of gratitude. I am so glad that Liz offered me the position. I am so glad that I work here. I really do love what I do. I absolutely love working in research. One of the things that I really love about research is both the micro and the macro of it, where like I get to see how the research I do improves the lives of the patients that I interact with, but I also get to see how it changes it globally in care. And I am just so grateful that I get a chance to do that, and that I get a chance to do it here at Children's in Pittsburgh, because it's just tremendous. So you can move forward. And lastly, my birthday is in March. And right before we all got sent home, there was talk of a March birthday luncheon for a couple people on the team, and that had to get scuttled because obviously we weren't in the hospital and no restaurants were open. But I just wanted it in writing somewhere that I still expect a birthday luncheon. So at this point, I think what might happen is we might just celebrate next year's birthday, depending on how this winter goes. But I do want to say, I expect a birthday luncheon or at least a pizza party, because I feel like, you know, I'm a special boy and I deserve my special birthday. So that's all I got. Thanks.
So next we have just a little bit of a question and answer session that we're going to cover. And so the first question is, what was the hardest change you had to make when becoming a CFRC? And Matt, if you'd like to go first, and then we'll have Miguel go.
I think the hardest change was coming into a brand new disease and learning all of it for the first time in the midst of the pandemic. And also, kind of I alluded to establishing the rapport with patients, because all the patients knew everybody, like they had like the cell phone numbers for like the coordinators, because they had literally been working with them for like a decade. So coming into that, being the new guy, that definitely felt like the hardest change, but everyone was very accepting and it actually worked out very well.
Okay. And Miguel?
Okay, yeah, kind of along the lines with Matt, you know, I think that coming to CF, one disease, I I like that I could focus on one disease, you know, once again, from the, you know, cell level, the way down. I learned it all. So that was something that, that I really liked. Um, However, I would say that the hardest part of becoming an RC was me thinking how to become one. So there's no class, there's no path. It is not taught in nursing school how to become a research coordinator. So my first thought process was, all right, well, you got to go to the highest level of care, which is an ICU. Try to get, your feet wet over there, and then try to explore, because since the beginning, this research was in my plan, but I just didn't know how to land on a job. I just have family that works in research too, so probably that helped a little bit, but that was hard, um, trying to find the path, especially I interviewed for a couple other jobs in case research was not the option for now. Just in those other jobs would be kind of like an extra knowledge to see if I can come back to that path later on. Um, and one thing that I did observe was that they would look at my resume and they would look like, huh, you're an ICU nurse coming from one of the busiest hospitals in town, uh, and you just want to come and sit with us in a chair, and have all these patients. So while being a research coordinator involves more than that, I feel like what they were trying to accomplish by their question is like, how come an ICU nurse, which is always on the go and on the go, wants to leave that world and come, to this other different world. So that was kind of different, Definitely, I would say that another challenge was, getting rid of my scrubs and then trying to get nice clothes. So it was for me a challenge. I was actually planning on going shopping that Monday that we got sent home. I told my wife, "Hey, you want to go shopping with me?" Because I ran out of outfits, for those 6 days, and then we just got sent home. So I haven't bought anything. So that's it. I would say, those are the hardest things for me. But once again, CF, it's it is a great world. I love it. I love the patient population. I have recently, uh, gone into the um, Cystic Fibrosis Foundation in Spain. They have a great video, excuse me, that explains CF in Spanish, and it's just a lovely thing. And then I share it with one of our PIs who also speaks Spanish as well. So just that in general.
Fantastic. Okay, so our next question, and Miguel, if you would like to go first, was there one person that helped you throughout your training, or was it a more collaborative team effort?
Oh, well, definitely it was a team effort. I mean, I cannot point at one person. We are, so it's Candy, my manager. We have three other ones. Um, so Chris and April and Danny. I mean, it's an effort. I give them my own share of questions, depending on the study that I've been training. I get to spend more time with them. I talk about having some sort of participation in the promise. So I got to spend a lot of time with that coordinator, and then I move on to another one. Then spend a lot of time with that person. But no, it was definitely a team effort, and that's one of the many things I would say that I love about my team. That team effort. They never let you down. If you think that you're asking uh, a bad question, I mean, they just tell you no. It is not a bad question. I think that with COVID, the hardest thing for me, and I know it shouldn't be in my head, but that feeling of, man, am I interrupting their flow at home when they're working? Like it's just that kind of thought sometimes kicks in my head, but then I remember, no, we are all a great team, and then we are here just to support each other, at least for the 7 months that I've been here. I can say that team effort and group is just one of the greatest things, the many greatest things that we have here at Children's Mercy in my department.
Great. And Matt?
I would say it was definitely a team effort. Everyone was available to me, but I have to give a special shout out to Adrienne Dorico, who is the other coordinator here, and she was just amazing in terms of answering phone calls and texts and emails, just giving me the guidance that I need. And a lot of the time, the way that I like to work is I like to get trained on something, and then when we all work in the same office, I like to stick my head over the cubicle wall and go like, hey, I'm not an idiot, I'm doing this right? And then somebody goes, yeah, you're good. And I go, okay, great. And Adrienne was very willing to accept those calls and texts, just like, hey, real quick, this is the right thing, right? And it was really great. And I'll say she's actually doing the hot topics in trends in clinical research talk here at NACFC. So if you get a chance, check it out.
Okay. So being in a new role is very stressful. What do you do to take care of yourself? Matt?
Well, I exercise. That's one thing. I've always been active, at least lately in life, even before the pandemic. But during the pandemic, it was great because working from home, I could just go for a run, or I could ride my bike and have that kind of outlet. Also, I meditate, which is really helpful. And then sometimes I just eat a lot of cookies. So it's really a balance between all three of those. And reminding myself, I say this often, if this is the worst thing that happened to me all day, I'm doing pretty good. And just keeping everything in perspective. And I kind of honed that in my years of working with neurotrauma and seeing like really terrible things. And so now when I'm presented with stressful situations and things happening, I just kind of take a breath and go, this is the worst thing. Life's pretty good. So just get through it.
Great. Thank you. And Miguel?
Well, that's a very good question, Lisa. I am not as athletic as Matt. I like to exercise, but I don't do it like daily or anything like that. I think that part of the most stressful part for me that I think that I quickly overcame that barrier was I was a night ICU nurse, and then I remember my last shift was a Saturday night, and I started on a Monday morning. And then I just got out of my house and I was like, like traffic does exist, like all these people go and drive at these times. It was very, very new to me. And I was tired. I mean, of course I was tired. And I remember going, coming home, and I took a 2-hour nap. Just right from 5 to 7 or 6 to 8, because my body was just getting used to, coming off nights. And I think that lasted a good three weeks. That I just had to go through that, But one thing that I have noticed is that working from home, the fridge is very close to me. So it's very easy to just get up and grab a snack. One thing that if I am in a meeting, either I talk or I don't have to talk, sometimes just to listen, like in webinars. I bought a pair of AirPods and I walk around my house, just listening, and then just get some steps in. So I am not sitting in that chair all the time, and then at the end of the day, I either lift some weights that my wife purchased due to the pandemic, or we go for a run or something. I discovered that because of the pandemic and because of being at home, I started to bike more. So biking has been, the greatest exercise that I have um, done. And yeah, a couple traits, I would say like Matt, he has cookies. I am not big in sweets. Let me rephrase that. I am big on Mexican sweets, which Mexican sweets have some sort of chili powder, and it has to be spicy. Like I don't like the Kit Kats and like you name it, M&Ms. I don't like cake, but I like the Mexican sweets has its own version of sweet overload. So that's what I do. I drink more coffee now too. I feel like I don't know why. I just like, and then as soon as I get up, there's my coffee mug just ready for me. So, yep, that's it.
Coffee is definitely a lifesaver during this time, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh yeah.
great.
Yeah.
All right, and this is going to be our last question for this session. So what was something new that you brought to your team? And Miguel, you can go first.
Oh man. It's kind of difficult. Like Matt was saying, I like being the most inexperienced person in the group, it's intimidating. So, like, but one thing that I could probably mention is that, um, and I don't know, like, if I'm right or wrong, but I think that one of the assets that I had that I brought is being bilingual. I think while we know that the CF population, you rarely or never see a CF patient that is fluent in Spanish. I think that was something that I was happy to bring into the team just for future reference, because we never know. Um, I I am assigning to the pulmonary and sleep department, so we never know when there's a sleep study that will require this sort of help or asset. So I recently became QBS certified, which is qualified bilingual staff, that allows me to communicate with my own patients. It doesn't allow me to serve as an interpreter for my colleagues. They have to ask for an interpreter for that, but at least I can communicate with my own patients, my own studies in my own native language, which I think that that is a good asset, and I I am super pro and in favor of having bilingual people in research. One of the big things that I keep hearing in nurses is the big wall that research encounters when trying to sign up the Hispanic population, So I think that having this asset is just kind of like a tool that I could use, or Children's Mercy can use through me, just to be more and more open for those opportunities. And just as a quick fun fact, I recently became one of the directors in they call it the ERG Latino, the Employee Resource Group. It's a voluntary time, so I just volunteer my hours after work, and my directorship falls under the professional development category, and I like to help. I like the involvement and yeah, but I would say that the QBS has been the unique thing for me. At least I'm sure that there's gonna be more things, and like Andy mentioned, each of my colleagues has his excels at something. I'm gonna find my something that I'm gonna excel at, and people are gonna come to me and say, "Hey, Miguel, by the way, can you," and I'm gonna happily do it for them, definitely.
Okay, Matt, your turn.
I think that what I brought to the team is what every time a new person joins the team is just a fresh set of eyes and someone asking the question, well, why are we doing this? I think that's really important for teams and for us as researchers and just as healthcare professionals to have somebody always new in the room going, well, why are we doing it this way? Because sometimes we can get kind of stuck in our own minds of like, well, this is just the way we've always done it. And it's really helpful to have somebody new say like, well, why are we doing it this way? And I think that that was something great that I brought to the team because it's always helpful. It's always like or new ideas or new perspectives. I think I also brought, every team I join, I try to bring some humor and some levity, just in the way of like realizing that like at the end of the day, like we're doing really great work and we can get it all done. And like sometimes it'll be stressful, but those times pass and it's up and down. Sometimes you're really busy and some days, you know, you stand at the cubicle of your coworker talking about your kids for an hour. Like we have an ebb and flow and that's okay. Sometimes they're busy, sometimes they're not. And we just have to appreciate all those times for what they are. I think that tying lastly into that, I think I brought a really great sense of calm because it really takes a lot to rattle me and it takes a lot to really knock me off my bubble. So even if I have, you know, 4 or 5 appointments in a day of like patients to see, I just go, okay, well, gonna get it done. And if I can't get it done, I'll ask somebody to help me and I'll just do the best I can because at the end of the day, I'm only one person and I know that I'm genuinely doing the best work that I can. And I just try to keep myself humble enough to know that I need to ask for help sometimes and just try and stay chill about it and know that, I used to tell patients that were inpatients in the hospital, they would get discharged. The doctor would come in and say, you're discharged. And then it would be hours later that they would go home and they would be really upset because they wanted to be discharged. And I would say to them all the time, I would say, you don't want to be the most important person in this hospital. The most important person in this hospital is the closest to dying. So you don't want to be that person. And knowing that like what we're actually working on every day is making people's lives better, and nothing that we're encountering is, or at least hopefully, isn't like a life or death decision, and that we can just take a moment and go like, okay, what's the best way to respect our patients and respect the science that we're doing and do it in the best way possible.
Fantastic. Thank you, Matt. Definitely humor and a calming personality are very beneficial to any team. So again, I want to thank everyone for participating today. Candy, Matt, and Miguel. It's been a fantastic presentation. I hope that this is beneficial to many, many people out there within the TDN network. This is all of our email addresses that you can also find, again, like I said, in the CF portal for our teams. It may have our phone numbers also, but at least you have this for a reference point. So if there's anything that we presented today that any of us can help you with or you have follow-up questions on, please reach out. And again, we just appreciate everyone and all the hard work that we've all been doing and we continue to do. So thank you and have a great rest of your day.